Well, welcome to See Hear Love, our SOS Summer of Strength podcast series, as we strengthen you in your relationship with Jesus through stories of women who live out their lives with courage, faith, hope, and love. And today we have two incredible, amazing, wise, formidable women from the great province of Saskatchewan, from Saskatoon, in our podcast studio today. Woo, let's hear it. Let's hear it for the girls, Char Quiring and Tanika Hutchinson. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So good to be here.
Oh,
such a blessing.
That was quite that.
I know. Do you like that?
Yeah.
I was just like formidable, wise. I could keep going. But I'm so glad you're in the studio. This is amazing that we can kind of like from province to province hang out, because the last time I was with you was in the Illuminate Sisterhood conference last year.
Yes. October 2023.
That's right. And that was amazing. It was our first time See Hear Love and myself had been to your conference, and we were wowed. It was the women, how it was so organized, the speakers, your breakouts, the food, the chandeliers, the greenery, the couch, like everything was just so well appointed, beautifully done. And that speaks, and I want to say this so I can gush about you, that speaks about leadership and about you. Because when things are well thought out and you are very intentional about creating an experience, an environment that is safe and beautiful and comforting and open, it's a great conference. And it was really fantastic. So I just wanted to say that. Okay.
So much.
And now all our listeners are like, what is going on? What's this conference? And who is this Char and Tanika? So let me do some introductions and then we can kind of get into the meat of the podcast. But Char Quiring, founder and executive director, Sisterhood Ministries in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Char is passionate about engaging, encouraging, and mobilizing the next generation of young women. And that's for sure. You could so see that at the conference. Char counts it a humbling privilege to serve and lead in any area where God has given her opportunity. I love that. And you have 3 grown children, all married, and you're waiting on your 4th grandbaby?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
My favorite role.
Yeah? Well, you are a good-looking grandma, Anna. I'm just saying. Like, I wouldn't even think that, but that's amazing. And you've been involved in the family trucking business in various roles for many years. Your life highlights are always about family time, gathering together for meals. I love that too. Laughter and spending time traveling together. You enjoy running. I'm not there. I like the biking, the hiking, the reading, and coffee time with friends. And Char, you love dreaming about new ways to connect women to each other and ultimately to the heart of their loving Father. Love it. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
So good to be here.
So good. Tanika Hutchinson. I love this. A strong writer, blogger, and passionate minister of the gospel. And I saw that too. When you spoke at the conference, you were just like power and preaching and gospel and Jesus. It was so inspiring. It's really great. Your desire is to see all people come to know Jesus and discover who they are in him. I love that. Solid. And your love for the Lord is evident in the way you serve and encourage others with the truth of God's word. Yeah. Good. You have been an intricate part of the Sisterhood Ministries, which is what Char is the founder and executive director of for 4 years.
Yes. Yeah.
And you are the director of discipleship.
Yes, ma'am.
There too.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Newly established role.
Congratulations. I love that. You're a gifted teacher who leads Bible studies, podcasts, and live YouTube broadcasts with Sisterhood. This is powerful right here, the two of you together with Sisterhood. And you, alongside your husband, David, lead Red Room Worship, an impactful city-wide worship collective that gathers the local church to experience the presence of God through song and prayer in Saskatoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, welcome.
Yes,
both of you.
Thank you. It's a true gift, and I know our team back home is sharing their thanks for having Sisterhood on your podcast.
Yes, I love this. And I love the work, and I want to hear more about that. But today at this time, our conversation around the podcast table, we're going to be talking about what it means to be seen, heard, and loved, and especially in a time and culture where it feels insecure, it feels scary, feels uncertain, polarized. And I'm in circles and situations where I'm feeling that from the women and men I'm around. Like, things feel really insecure. People are scared, or what's happening in the world as we know it. And so as I was thinking about what we could talk about is that in spite and despite all of this, how can we show Jesus, live out Jesus, and ensure that people are seen, heard, and loved by him? So I'd love your thoughts on that. Like, let's talk about, and it's also, I mean, the title of my show. So of course we're going to go there, but let's talk about, when I say seen, to see someone, for you to be seen, what comes to you? What comes to mind right away when I say that? What's the importance of that? Char, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I was reflecting on this, knowing that we were going to talk about this today, and I think even just a relationship with my husband or family, it's when the focus up, like even sitting across from someone and having their focus on you, right? And having them hear you, having them empathize, not maybe knowing the answers, not maybe giving the answers, maybe to what you're talking about or what you're feeling, but really sitting with you in that, So I just think that something that my husband and I talked about lately is we're both in leadership, and I didn't start out our married life being as much in leadership, although I led our family. But I think now, when we understand each other more in some of the things that we're going through as leaders, and he doesn't try to fix, or, well, you should do that, or you should, it's more like, I get it. That's a tough spot to be in. So it's really like hearing and agreeing with and spending time with. Mm-hmm. So I know we're talking about how the Father sees us, and that is just a good, reflection. It's a good, for me, I need to see it in the physical to understand it in the spiritual. And so I picture that. I picture him really understanding us, and through the person of Jesus, what he walked through, the different things that, even going to the cross, all the emotions and just the different hardships, the times he was tempted, he understands us. He sits with us. He is, it's just similar to a personal, close relationship that you really, really value. Mm-hmm. It's a reflection of God with us.
That's good, the being seen. Tanika, what about you? This being seen, to see somebody and for you to be seen.
Yeah, I think the first word, when you said first word, I hear care. I find that the times that I've felt seen, I felt cared for. I felt that that similar to what you just said, Mishar, about somebody sitting with you and seeing where you're at and empathizing where you're at, and not wanting to move fast because they got busy schedules, or they got things to do, or a meeting to catch, or a phone call to take, whatever. But they, make time to sit and to see, and to hear and to love.
And in time to get with that.
It's such a like a God name here, okay? Mm-hmm. What you have, Miss Melinda. But yeah, I think care is the word that I would subscribe to, feeling seen. And I would also say, as someone that had been insecure with just myself and with some things that I believed that God was calling me to, people calling those things out and seeing them in me, let me know that I'm not crazy, or that I'm not fooling myself, or I'm actually in the pocket of of what God is calling. So having, I think that as well, people seeing what's on a life and being able to call it out.
Good.
Yeah.
When we think about that, so you're saying, for both of you, so Char, you're saying, like, being seen as this, like, I like what you said, sitting with us, sitting with you, the understanding, a close relationship, which then reflects God. And Tanika, you're saying care and empathy and calling out. So with those words that you're saying, how can you do that for others? Like, it's like this has happened with you. Mm-hmm. Maybe the question, let me back up. Why don't we do that as much for others? See them in this way. What blocks us? Because I think to myself, man, if we did that, imagine how women would be, how society would be if we did that. So these are good. I agree with you. Like, that's absolutely what it means to be seen. But why don't we do it? And how can we do this more? What should motivate us to see people, sit with them, call it out, reflect God? Sure.
Yeah, I think there can be things like, well, busyness for one thing. I really need to block my time then and really see that person without other distractions and listen. Sometimes it can be competitive spirits, right, within women or within whatever, and it's checking your heart, checking your motives. I think that those kinds of things, that what comes to mind about blocking what, and being intentional too. Like if you wake up in the morning and you talk to God and say, like, Spirit, lead me in the conversations and the people that I should really pause for. I think so. That's intentional. You're asking God, you're inviting Him into your day, into your conversations, and He will show you who you need to sit with and be and to see, and who's longing for that, right? So you speak into that person's life because He's prompted you. That's something that God is going to just use amazingly in that person's life and also in your own.
It's good. Yeah, definitely the busyness, the competitive spirit, not being intentional. Those are absolute blocks for us not being able to see others. When you just say that, you're just like, are we so busy? Why do we have the competitive spirit? Why are we not intentional? What are the excuses that we have created and made within ourselves to then not see people because of this? It's just a little check. I'm speaking to myself. I'm like, I feel the check.
Yeah. I think kind of bouncing off of what you just said, Char, I think you have to have an eye of recognizing and the willingness to see something, to recognize someone is needing, needs your empathy, needs your words, needs your care, but also the ability to, or just yielding to noticing what's on people's life. And even if you've never been there and you've never done it, have the lack of that competitive spirit and knowing that, wow, I don't necessarily do that, or I'm not called to do that, but I see it all over you. And, let's be a Titus 2 woman, an older, mature woman, and raising others in the faith, and, ushering them into where we see God positioning them, or, calling it out. Because sometimes I feel like people don't really realize what's on them, and they do need someone to say it. And I know that because I've been there myself. So,
Good.
I would just add, when we're empty or when we haven't spent that time feeling seen by God, we find it hard to stop see other people.
That's a really good. So when we're empty, it's like, how do we, and we're like, we're not connected with God and being secure that He sees us and our value and that we're beloved. It's harder then to kind of lead or see out of a dry, empty space. That's a good reminder. But it also speaks into what you both do in sisterhood. Like this with the competitive spirit, if we are choosing to be sisters and have sisterhood, then the competitive spirit is something that we're just we're not a part of that. And the busyness, it's again, discernment of time spent and whatnot. But I think that the choosing of sisterhood and saying, okay, how can I see you, empathize, call it out, recognize, that's part of what that is. And I think that's so beautiful because that's what you're about, right? That's the work you're doing. Okay, so the seeing, and I love that because when I go and speak, it's just, sometimes I want to just the actual physical seeing, just look at me. So don't just walk by all the time really quickly. Don't just wave off, but actually see, be present with me, look in my eyes and see me. And see me not for what I can do for you, but see me because I'm a daughter of God. That whose presence delights Him, right? And sometimes it's a call for me. I mean, I'm speaking this because I get convicted because I'm busy I have purpose. I'm very focused. And so there's a lot of times I don't see people. I literally just walk by people constantly and just, or my husband sometimes or the kids. Like I'm like, and I have to be reminded over and over. It's like, no, stop and pause and really see them. Be in their presence. But you guys, what you mentioned, and just sit and be with them. Intentionality. It's good. I like that. All right, heard. And you talked about this, but about like listening. Let's talk about that. Like, so when have you felt the most heard or listened to? What did that look like for you in your life that you were heard?
I'll start with me.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, something that affirms I was heard is when someone repeats it or acts on it. And it's like, oh, they actually heard and took that to heart, you know, whether it be, you know, family member or whether we're working together. And it's like, this is what, you know, Char was talking about, or it just affirms that they actually heard me, you know, so it feels okay like that. And it's a form of love. Like it all ties together. You see here, love. It's because it's honoring, and it also feels like what you had to say mattered because it was something that was taken and used or repeated or understood. So yeah, I think when there's no response to what you're saying or what you're writing or, you know, whatever it is, and that's why social media can be so crazy too, because sometimes we like to see, you know, something we've written be responded to, but that's not really like the true, honest way that your heart feels heard. It's actually like one-on-one, and it's working together with people, a family, and if you're talking about God hearing you, I think for me, I've seen sometimes in the moment I don't exactly know what he's doing, and then I look back and I see exactly how he heard my prayers and how he was right there. And it might have been even a little painful or, just walking through a hard thing. But in the moment I can have more peace with him knowing that he's hearing me, but I also need to reflect and thank for the prayers that I see that he answered. And then I do have that, oh, he heard me, you know, I have that confirmation.
That is really good. You know, Char, I have never heard that example in the hear part. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but it's like a aha moment right now. I'm just having a moment. The God hearing and the prayer answering is that he heard the request. He was listening and he heard what you said, and then you see the answer. And that actually reminds us that we're heard. That's good. That is so good. I love that. That's a great example. Answered prayers, moments, God was hearing and answered. I love that. Tanika, for you, when have you felt heard, had a moment?
Yeah, I honestly don't even know if I could add too much to what Miss Char said because it's just so anointed. Come on, Miss Char. Let's go. Honestly, I think hearing is related to the doing, you know, to the responding to what you said or you asked of someone or you brought up something. But I also feel that I feel heard when I'm given eye contact, you know, like even like, with me and my hubby, you know, we both live busy, you know, full lives. We're both leaders ourselves in our own right. And, sometimes we have to ask, you know, whether it's the phone or whether it's like something, it's like, okay, like we're talking, like in order for me to feel heard or for him to feel heard, it's the posture and it's the eye contact and it's like the dialogue. It's like it's like not only like doing, let's say, a day or two, but like in the responding. And also I feel when someone hears you, I guess it's a personal thing. I feel like a tone follows, like a tone of voice of like whether again care or affirming or correction or something. Like I feel that there's like body language that follows. Body language that follows the concept of hearing. And to piggyback off of what you said concerning the Lord, I have the verse in my home as you walk in, and it's Jeremiah 29:12, and I wanted to read it because it's amazing. And ESV, it says, Jeremiah 29:12 ESV, then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. And I'd say that when I'm praying, I'm always listening to, like, thinking of this verse, because it's God speaking, that you'll come to me and you'll pray and that I will hear you.
Good.
It's like an assurance of what you just said, that's literally his nature. That's his character, to listen and to respond to his children. So praise
So
him.
good.
Yeah.
So how can we hear and listen to those around us better? As with the hear was when I was speaking and people would come in, they would say, I feel like my voice doesn't matter. I feel like I'm not brought to the table for conversation. I feel like my story is, it doesn't matter. It's this hearing, I'm not heard, which then translates to me, I'm not being listened to. So tell me how we can be better hearers and listeners to those around us. What can we do? Or what can you do?
Yeah.
And I say we collectively as a me and you. Okay.
I think just reflecting on the way that we feel heard is to respond that way back to others. So if someone gives a good idea or a suggestion, for instance, if I dismiss it or just, shrug it off or whatever it is, but taking time to really, take time to listen one-on-one, like look at them, take it down, like pray about it, like really give value to that person for what they might be. Everyone's hearing from God, who's following God. And so that's what I'm talking about, just kind of in work situations or family situations, is listening to what they're saying. And it might be different from what you think, but either using that or repeating that, with full intention, of listening to them, right? Yeah.
I think it is partly a working skill, because listening means that you have to keep from distraction.
Right.
And I am one high distraction. I could be listening to you, but thinking, I got a grocery shop tonight, right. Butter, milk, eggs, lettuce for my BLTs. But I could be actively nodding my head to you.
Sounds good.
But I'm thinking, right? But I'm thinking of, and it's this active listening, because I think more and more people know if you're not really listening. People know. And so it is this intention, choice to listen, focus, and not be distracted. And it's hard because you have your phones, there's pressures for things. And so it actually feels more difficult to choose to really listen, hear people. I feel more than ever because of the distraction. And so I think, but when I, hear all these women who say, no one listens to me, I feel like I speak something out and it's I'm this lone person in the wilderness. It's an important thing. People need to be heard and to be listened to. Tanika, for you, what would you say we can do better as far as listening, hearing people, know that they matter?
Yeah, I think the active listening is something. I think posture, leaning in. I'm a big I don't know, maybe it was my dad's such a people person. I just learned so much about being present physically. But I know if kind of what you just said about people know when you're not listening. I'll just use my own story if I can. So usually, when people say, how you doing or what's new, I give them the most of the time, and maybe you correct me. Please correct me. I'm all for correction. I usually never really give a full answer, whether it's amazing and it's something awesome's happening and you want to share, or things aren't so good and you don't share. And a part of me feels that when people ask that question, the response they're really looking for is just surface level. I'm good. How's the weather? It's beautiful. It's almost as if there's no real desire to go deep. It's all what people want is depth. But then how do you get there when you either meeting new people or even just going deeper in your friendships? how do you go deep in the concept of conversation and being heard? And I think, for me, that's been something that I've come across many times is how do you just answer the basic question and trust that the person across from you is actually hearing and wants to go where you feel led to go or what you'd like to share. So when I hear you saying, women feel that they're not being heard, I think people willing to be present and to actually engage with what they're saying and being willing to spend time in hearing somebody. I think it does take time to hear. It takes time to have that good, deep conversation and to avail yourself to continue. When someone needs more time.
Yeah. I also think looking at Sisterhood Ministries and, I was on your website and looking at all the women involved. And then when you look at the conferences and all the women who are speaking and all the women who are writing, I feel like there's some great listening happening over in Saskatoon. Because when you're hearing and listening to people, you're also listening to the needs, giving them a platform. It takes the listening to then the doing. And that's my hope with See Her Love is that it's so much about listening and not talking all the time. It's like listening to the needs, listening to what's going on, listening to what culture's needing, listening to what people are needing spiritually. It's listening, and then inviting them to be a part of the conversation. So when they're like, I don't feel heard, it's like, I'm listening. All right, come join and share your story. Come join and share your thoughts. Come join and share your ideas. So I think that's part of the hearing and the listening together. It's good. Love. And I'm looking at Addison, our, should I say director, Addison? And timing-wise, maybe just give me a hand signal because I don't know. But, okay, he doesn't either. It's always great having your kind of like director. Okay, director. Okay, let's talk about love. Big one. And I know we could go into, it could be a longer conversation. But we know that when I have spoken and women have come to me, they've said they don't feel loved by others. But we won't talk about that. It's the two that really hurt my heart is when they say I love by others, but I don't feel loved by God and I don't love myself. I want to land on those two because those are big. I know the love by others. That's something we can have another conversation about. But let's talk first, just really quick about the not loving ourselves and encouraging women, because that's the big one where they're like, I don't love myself. And that's the struggle that I live in. So I'm coming, to you, Melinda, to say, I know that I should, feel love and I just don't. And a lot of it comes from myself. Personal experiences, encouragement on that space about women going, I don't love myself.
So I would say in our culture, and I would ask women, where's your focus? Mm-hmm. Because if it's on your phone, if it's on social media, if it's on what other people are doing, we're going to find it really hard to compare. Like we're never going to measure up. We're going to see the things that we have faults in. We're going to see the things of us that we don't love because we're always comparing. So comparison and just our eyes down here instead of our eyes up here. Mm-hmm. But I know one thing that I've learned to do is to really spend more quiet time with God, and to, even though we talk about distractions, there's so many of them. So it is a practice, but to silence everything else and to listen to Him speak to me. Now, people don't always know how is He speaking to you, or what is He hearing, or what are you hearing? And it might be a word, it might be a verse, it might be a feeling of presence. But even to start down and write down the way that He views me, and He views me as like a child of His, loved, accepted, unconditionally loved, redeemed, pure, gifted, and match those things with Scripture. So find the Scripture even and write the Scripture beside it. But I think it's something that we meditate on who he says we are, and turn off the voices that say we're anything but, because they'll always come at us to take that voice out, right? So it's something that we can do, is whether it be in a walk or with our coffee or with our Bible or music playing, it's really stopping to reflect on, who does he say I am, And if you don't know, it is in his word. And, I'd invite you to check that out and find that, highlight it, write it down, write those key verses down. But it changes. It changes how you feel about yourself. It changes your fears. It changes your shame, because he doesn't see you that way. He sees you as, completely redeemed and loved and white as snow, it says, because of he took all of our sin on the cross, and not just part of it. And his mercies are new every morning. So I would just say, spend time with him.
That's beautiful, Char. I think in that, I said, how do we love ourselves? But it's so intricately connected with how God sees and loves us. Like it's actually, as you were saying, that it's not separate. It's actually whole and together. Like you nailed it. It's like, and that was it. It's like when I'm like, I don't love myself. And then you go, why not? And where are you basing your love on? Because if you're actually basing it on God, then that's a different thing. But if you're basing it on the world and what others say and comparison, then of course you don't love yourself, because you'll never measure up. With God, you are beloved, worthy. What? No.
We do need that time alone, but we do need the community of fellow believers too, because when we look at the things that, let's say Eve, she was alone in the garden. Like when the enemy comes at us and when he tells us these lies, it's usually we're alone. We're not surrounded by people who are also speaking God's truth into our lives. So yes, we need our time alone with God to strengthen us. But then when we're in the thick of things too, we need to bring in and have those close, send a text to someone who will pray for you, or speak words of truth, or send a verse that tells you truth. And that's
good. Yeah. It's good. Tanika, I was going to ask you to answer that, but I think I want you to answer the question, why do you follow Jesus? And the reason why is that for the past number of years on See Her Love, we always ask guests this question. And it's fascinating, and I love it because there's different answers, and yet there's core. But I would love you to answer that final question as we close up this conversation. But why does Tanika Hutchinson follow Jesus?
When you said that question out, I was like, Lord, how am I going to answer this? Because I can be as basic and be as deep as anyone else, right? But the passage that comes to my mind that really stirs my heart every single time I come across it, and it's in John 6, and it's when Jesus was asking them, who do men say that I am, and all these things, and then he asks his disciples, who do you say I am, or asking Peter, and he said, you are God, you are Jehovah. And then later on, Jesus asks, he says, tells him about having to drink of my wine and eat of my bread and having to partake in me and all these things. And so many of his disciples left him. But then he turned to his core 12. He said, are you going to leave me too? And then once again, Peter says, where would I go? You have words of life. You have the eternal life. And I think over the years of growing in his word and nowhere near where I know that, before the Lord calls me home, I plan to be in him. But man, the more his words and the truth of who he is comes alive in my spirit as I spend my time with him. But as one who loves and shares the gospel of Jesus, seen people go from death to life, not only in my life, but as I get an opportunity to share him with others. I don't know of no other, little G God that changes people, where they go from brokenness to being whole, where they're lost to being found, and from darkness to light.
Yeah.
And God so loved the world that he gave his one and only begotten Son, and not to condemn the world, but that through him that the world might be saved. And it's an honor and a privilege to sit in ministry and do this and impact lives. But there's nothing like sitting at the feet of Jesus and knowing that he loves me, and he died for me, and he rose again for me. And if it wasn't for him, I might not be alive. My life would have looked completely different if I didn't make my decision to follow him in 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good. Char, just as we close, Sisterhood Ministries, maybe just do a quick little, what is it about? How can people get involved? Why should people get involved?
So I think, in a nutshell, we want to reach people for Jesus. We want to. It's women based. It's we want women to not only know Jesus, but be resilient disciples that follow and stay steadfast in their faith. We want them to then the ripple effect to do that in their homes, in their workplaces. So we're always looking for what kind of tools do we use. Like now we're beginning the podcast, YouTube, because we want to reach women where they're at. They want community. We have a large gathering that we try to do a couple times a year. We have a Rooted mentorship program where we can get together one-on-one, and now we're doing Rooted pods where there's more, the topics are led by a mentor, but you can gather and try to connect with more women on the same topic. We have Bible studies that we're writing just to who are you bringing? What are their gifts? What's in her hands? How can we use that to reach women? So women need community, like we just talked about. They need to be seen and heard and loved, and they need to find their hope in Jesus. Go deeper with him.
Amazing. So sisterhoodministries.ca, is that right?
Yes.
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 So we make sure that we just direct everybody to you.
Sisterhoodministries.ca.
Start downloading, connecting on all the little things on the website.
And then the podcast is on.
Yes. Let's talk about it. The Sisterhood podcast. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, and our YouTube broadcast will be under Sisterhood Ministries. So, and same handle for Instagram and Facebook, straight Sisterhood Ministries. So
amazing. Well, what an honor, privilege to have you both, Char and Tanika, in our studio today. It's beautiful when, and I think this is the beauty about being a part of Jesus and the community of sisters, is that you can kind of come together and just feel like, yeah, we're sisters. We're just chatting and talking around the table. It's a beautiful thing. So thanks for joining. Thanks for coming all the way from Saskatoon to hang out with me here in the studio with Addison, who's, I'm just doing shout outs to Addison because he's an amazing producer / director. You can't see him, but he's here with us in the studio. But just really thankful for you and the work you're doing, the ministry you're doing, the lives you're impacting around the world with your content, your conferences, your pods. Really proud of you guys. And from this side, we're cheering you on and all the great work that you're doing.
Thanks for inviting us to your table here today. And get to spend the day with you. Awesome.
Yeah, anytime. Come on over. Thank you, beloved sister, listener, for listening, leaning in, and learning with us today. We hope you were strengthened with our conversation, our stories, our wisdom and insight. And always know that you are seen, heard, and deeply loved by God. Thanks for joining us.